The Janissaries, one of the most elite military forces in history, played a pivotal role in the rise and success of the Ottoman Empire. Their origins can be traced back to the reign of Sultan Murad I in the late 14th century, marking the beginning of an institution that would serve as the core of the Ottoman military for centuries. The creation of the Janissary corps was not only a strategic, military move but also an important socio-political development that helped solidify the Ottoman Empire's dominance in both Europe and Asia. The Janissaries were established as an elite military unit composed primarily of Christian boys taken from their families through the Devshirme system, also known as the blood tax. This system was implemented by the Ottomans as a means of recruiting soldiers, officials, and servants from the Christian population in their conquered territories, primarily in the Balkans. The system required Christian communities to give up a certain number of boys, who were then brought to the Ottoman court, converted to Islam, and trained in military tactics, discipline, and Ottoman culture. Over time, these boys would form the backbone of the Ottoman military, known for their loyalty, discipline, and military prowess. At the heart of the Janissary corps was the belief that loyalty to the Sultan was paramount. Unlike other soldiers, who often fought for local or personal causes, the Janissaries were loyal directly to the Sultan, their pay coming from the state. This structure ensured that their allegiance was firmly aligned with the central Ottoman authority, making them a crucial instrument for the Sultan's control over the empire. The fact that the Janissaries were recruited from outside the Ottoman family and culture meant that their loyalty was often to the empire as a whole rather than to any single ethnic or religious group. This was one of the main reasons why the Janissaries played such a vital role in ensuring the stability and military success of the empire. The Janissaries became an elite force renowned for their rigorous training and discipline. They were the first standing army in Europe to be armed with firearms, which gave them a significant technological advantage over their opponents. By the early 15th century, the Janissaries were not only formidable warriors but also played a key role in the Ottoman military's evolution from a collection of irregular troops to a professional, highly organized fighting force. In addition to their military role, the Janissaries were integrated into the Ottoman administrative system. Many of them rose through the ranks to hold important positions within the government. This integration allowed the Janissaries to wield significant political power and influence, sometimes even acting as a check on the power of the Sultan and other ruling elites. They were deeply embedded in the political and social structure of the empire, with their leaders called Akas often having considerable sway over the direction of Ottoman policy. The Devshirme system that created the Janissaries not only provided a reliable source of soldiers, but also played a crucial role in the Ottoman social structure. It allowed the empire to tap into the talent and potential of the conquered Christian populations, providing them with a way to integrate into the empire and rise to positions of power. The Janissary corps, in many ways, became the bridge between the diverse cultures and religions of the Ottoman Empire. Over time, the children taken from Christian communities became deeply loyal Ottomans, often serving in positions far beyond the military. Murad I's decision to form the Janissary corps marked the beginning of a new era in Ottoman military history. Not only did it allow the Ottomans to build a highly trained and loyal military force, but it also helped foster the growth of a strong and centralized state. The corps helped the Ottomans secure their early victories in the Balkans and Anatolia, and their strength and influence would grow exponentially throughout the empire's centuries-long reign. The establishment of the Janissaries also contributed to the Islamization of the Ottoman Empire. As Christian boys were converted to Islam, they became an integral part of Ottoman society and military power. The Janissary corps helped spread Islamic culture and values throughout the empire, particularly in the regions of Anatolia and the Balkans, where Islam was gradually taking root among the local populations. The Janissaries continued to be the core of the Ottoman military until the 19th century. Their role in the Ottoman military and state was unmatched for hundreds of years, and they were instrumental in many of the empire's greatest military victories. From their early victories in the Balkans to their involvement in key battles such as the Siege of Constantinople in 1453, the Janissaries played a pivotal role in the Ottoman Empire's military success. In conclusion, the creation of the Janissary Corps under Sultan Murad I was a turning point in Ottoman history. The establishment of this elite military unit provided the empire with a professional, loyal, and highly disciplined fighting force that helped solidify its dominance in Europe and the Middle East. The legacy of the Janissaries would continue to shape the Ottoman Empire's military structure for centuries to come, making them one of the most powerful and influential forces in world history. As the Janissary Corps grew in power and prestige, the Ottoman Empire's military might expanded dramatically. Under the leadership of Sultan Murad I, the Janissaries evolved from a small elite group of soldiers into the backbone of the Ottoman military. The corps played an essential role in expanding the empire's territory, maintaining control over newly conquered regions, and ensuring the central authority of the Sultan. One of the primary reasons for the Janissary Corps' success was its highly disciplined and structured training regimen. Unlike other armies of the time, the Janissaries were not just recruited for their military skills, but were rigorously trained in the Ottoman military traditions from a young age. The boys, taken through the Devshirme system, were brought up in a rigorous and systematic manner that instilled a deep sense of loyalty to the Sultan and the Ottoman state. The training process was multifaceted. Not only were they trained in the art of war, including swordsmanship, archery, and later the use of firearms, but they were also given a broad education. Many of the boys learned Turkish, the language of the empire, and were educated in Islamic principles, administration, and the philosophy of the Ottoman state. This education created well-rounded soldiers who could function not only as military forces, but also as administrators and bureaucrats if required. The Janissaries' knowledge of both military strategy and statecraft made them invaluable to the empire. The Janissary Corps' focus on discipline and loyalty set them apart from other armies of the time. Their training and upbringing made them some of the most formidable soldiers in the world. Their close-knit unit structure, where loyalty to the Sultan and the empire was emphasized above all else, meant that the Janissaries were not just soldiers, but a politically and socially powerful force within the empire. The corps maintained strict discipline, and any disobedience or insubordination was met with harsh consequences. This made the Janissaries a cohesive force, known for their unwavering dedication and ability to execute orders without question. The firearms revolution, which began in the late 14th century, further cemented the Janissaries' importance in the Ottoman military. The Ottomans were among the first to effectively utilize gunpowder weapons, including cannons and muskets, and the Janissaries played a significant role in this development. By the early 5th–10th century, the Janissaries became renowned for their proficiency with firearms. The introduction of firearms gave the Ottomans a crucial military advantage, particularly in sieges, where the use of artillery and muskets enabled them to breach the walls of fortified cities that would have been nearly impenetrable using traditional methods of warfare. The Janissaries' role in siege warfare became critical in many of the Ottomans' most famous military victories, such as the Siege of Constantinople in 1453. The Janissaries, under the leadership of Sultan Mehmed II, used their advanced knowledge of gunpowder weapons to breach the walls of Constantinople, leading to the city's fall and the eventual conquest of the Byzantine Empire. This event was not just a military triumph but also marked the Ottomans' formal entry into the European scene as a major power. The use of artillery and firearms by the Janissaries would continue to be a decisive factor in the empire's military campaigns for centuries to come. The Janissaries were not only critical to the Ottomans' military success, but also became a political and social force in the empire. Over time, the Janissaries gained significant influence over the internal workings of the state. Many Janissaries rose through the ranks to hold important positions within the Ottoman government, military, and administration. This increasing power allowed them to exert influence over the Sultan and his court. In fact, by the 16th and 17th centuries, the Janissaries became so powerful that they sometimes played a role in determining who would become sultan, creating a system of military patronage that could sometimes overshadow the authority of the sultan himself. While the Janissaries' loyalty to the sultan was essential in the early years, over time, this very loyalty was sometimes undermined by their growing power and influence. As the corps became more integrated into Ottoman society, many Janissaries began to view their own interests as more important than the needs of the state. They grew more resistant to reforms, and by the 17th and 18th centuries, the Janissaries had become an institution in their own right, often acting in opposition to the reforms of the sultans. Their growing power led to a series of rebellions and confrontations with the Ottoman rulers, culminating in their eventual disbandment in the early 19th century. Despite this decline, the legacy of the Janissaries remained a powerful symbol of Ottoman military might and discipline. They were a key component of the Ottoman military system, helping to propel the empire to its peak, and their influence continued to be felt throughout the empire even long after their formal abolition. The Janissaries, through their elite status, exceptional training, and critical role in expanding Ottoman territories, played an undeniable part in shaping the empire's history and leaving an indelible mark on military history worldwide. In conclusion, the creation and evolution of the Janissary corps under Sultan Murad I and his successors was one of the most important developments in Ottoman history. Through their military expertise, discipline, and unwavering loyalty, the Janissaries became the foundation of Ottoman military success, enabling the empire to dominate large swaths of Europe, the Middle East, and North Africa. Their influence extended far beyond the battlefield, shaping the political and social structure of the Ottoman Empire for centuries to come. The Janissaries' evolution from an elite military unit to a significant political force within the Ottoman Empire was a pivotal chapter in the history of the empire. As the backbone of the Ottoman military, the Janissaries were central to its military conquests and the expansion of Ottoman power. However, over time, their influence grew beyond the battlefield, impacting the political and administrative structure of the empire itself. By the late 16th and early 17th centuries, the Janissaries had become more than just soldiers. They had become a formidable force that played an increasingly significant role in Ottoman politics. One of the most important aspects of the Janissary corps' growth in power was their ability to influence the succession of sultans. As the Ottoman Empire expanded, the Janissaries increasingly became involved in political decisions, especially in matters related to the imperial family. Their loyalty to the Sultan was a double-edged sword, as they were willing to protect the throne, but they also demanded a say in who should sit upon it. The Janissaries had a profound influence on palace politics, and on several occasions they intervened in succession disputes, even going so far as to overthrow sultans who they felt were unsatisfactory. This growing political power was facilitated by the Janissaries' position within the Ottoman military system. The corps had direct access to the Sultan and his court, making them indispensable to the functioning of the empire. Over time, their military superiority allowed them to not only influence the Sultan's decisions but also demand privileges that gave them political leverage. Their increasing power led to corruption within the cours, and by the 17th century, many Janissaries became involved in business ventures, including the trade of goods and slaves. This economic involvement allowed the Janissaries to further increase their wealth and influence within the empire. While the Janissaries had been instrumental in securing Ottoman victories during the empire's early expansion, their growing power also led to tensions with the ruling class. As the Janissaries grew more entrenched in Ottoman society, they became increasingly resistant to reforms aimed at modernizing the empire. They were often opposed to new military techniques and advancements, particularly those that threatened their privileged status. Their resistance to change became a problem for the sultans, who needed to modernize the military to keep pace with European powers. The Janissaries' growing power and resistance to reform led to the eventual downfall of their once untouchable status. Sultan Murad II, in the early 19th century, recognized the growing threat posed by the Janissaries to the stability of the empire. In 1826, he orchestrated the auspicious incident, a military coup in which the Janissary corps was effectively disbanded. Thousands of Janissaries were killed, and the corps was officially dissolved, marking the end of their centuries-long dominance in Ottoman military affairs. The disbandment of the Janissaries marked a turning point for the Ottoman Empire, signaling the beginning of military and administrative reforms that would eventually lead to the Tanzimat era and the empire's modernization efforts. With the Janissaries gone, the Ottomans were able to shift away from their reliance on traditional methods of warfare and focus on more modern techniques and strategies. The new army was created, modeled after European armies, and was designed to modernize the Ottoman military in line with European standards. While the Janissaries no longer played a direct role in the Ottoman military, their legacy lived on in the very structure they helped to create. The influence they wielded in the early years of the empire shaped the development of Ottoman military and political systems for centuries. Despite their eventual downfall, the Janissaries remain a symbol of Ottoman power, discipline, and military innovation. In conclusion, the Janissaries were integral to the rise and success of the Ottoman Empire. From their humble beginnings as a military unit of Christian recruits to their eventual status as a powerful political and military force, the Janissaries played a crucial role in shaping the empire. Their military prowess, loyalty to the Sultan, and influence over political decisions made them an essential part of Ottoman history. While their power ultimately waned, the legacy of the Janissaries continues to be felt in the history of the Ottoman Empire and beyond.